And it's time for Eye on the World with Selwyn Manning from scoop.co.nz. Hello to you, Selwyn.
Yeah, hi Glenn, how are things?
Good, thank you. And a return now to Libya and the situation over there.
Yes, absolutely. There's an awful lot going over there. The NATO-led strikes and special forces assistance to these Libyan rebels have really created a safe zone, particularly around those areas of Benghazi. And what we've seen in the last week, Glenn, is that the European Union, for example, it's confident enough that it's opened a base in Benghazi and basically stating that it's there to assist the rebels to maintain a stronghold around that city. For example, we've got a bit of a clip that we can run there, Glenn, if you wish.
Yep.
And what we're seeing in this clip is Catherine Ashton, the head of the EU's foreign affairs. She's their foreign affairs official, basically, and she's over there in Benghazi itself, opening this branch of the EU. And also, what we've seen there is, open shots walking through the streets of Benghazi. Really, it's a demonstration that there is. I suppose it's like the equivalent of Baghdad's green zone. That you've got officials there that are so confident that they're in a safe area that they're actually physically launching an EU branch office right in the heart of what was only a couple of weeks ago a war zone, Glenn.
So a show of strength, essentially, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and a show of strength for sure. We have to be reminded too that the rebels, they continue to fight Gaddafi's forces, obviously around that area. The Gaddafi's forces are still spiking up, but this particular opening is certainly, it's a show of strength. Some of Gaddafi's forces, they continue to use, makeshift weapons. Kind of a mix of specialist and makeshift weapons. They definitely have got, like many of the countries in the region, AK-47s coming out of every closet and drawer. But, these weapons, then we've got a clip of that too coming through, of anti-aircraft guns on the back of utes, shooting, what is basically heavy, medium artillery kind of on the forces that are loyal to Gaddafi. At the same time, we can see from the clip that's running at the moment that there's fierce resistance coming from Gaddafi's forces itself, and there's a firefight in the clip that we're showing at the moment that basically is a mix of mortar fire, rifle fire, but also light armour fire as well. So there's quite a lot going on. Now that particular fight that we're showing there is demonstrating how tense it still is around Misrata, another city that the rebels really kind of hold, but that Gaddafi's forces are still trying to actually get back into that area.
So, even though the world's media seems to have dropped the story, or at least here in New Zealand, nothing's led up there. It's just as it was a month or two ago.
Yeah, it is. The more you get westward, Gaddafi's forces are contained very much now in that western part of the country. So those towns, villages that are positioned close to Tripoli, that's where a lot of this fighting is going on. It's really street and semi-rural kind of areas that are under fire. Gaddafi's forces, for example, they've been taking hostages, civilians hostage, there's clips coming out now of those who have survived being captive by Gaddafi's forces and saying basically what's going on. And once again, there's awful kind of accounts going on. For example, one individual who has escaped, he's saying, and there's a clip running at the moment, really fuzzy kind of stuff, this media coming out, but as you can imagine, it's difficult circumstances. But that clip that we just saw there, it shows that Gaddafi, his forces, they had captured a group of rebels. They're in a bus, they're blindfolded, and they've been commanded to chant over and over and over some Islamic chants. And the whole thing is kind of continuing to be quite a disturbing kind of affair.
Yeah. We've also got further clips of what appear to be prisoners as well.
Yeah, that's right. What we're seeing here is this more and more footage coming out, Glenn. There's, it's just like, for example, there's an account of a young man who, along with 70 others of all ages, they were grouped in and put into they were put into underground cells. This is in around Tripoli. And they were whipped, basically. They say they were whipped by Gaddafi's brother-in-law, who is a guy, Senussi, who is being sought by the International Criminal Court prosecutors at the moment for questioning over alleged crimes of humanity and war crimes. Now, Senussi apparently told his guards to rape the captives. They had their feet and hands bound. They were blindfolded, left in cells. They had no water. The guards apparently would enter the cells to urinate on them when they were very, very obviously starved of food and water. One survivor, he speaks of a 70-year-old man begging for respect, but Senussi himself apparently abused him by inserting a stick inside him. That old man apparently later hung himself. Now, for 5 days they were beaten and put in this situation until such time as Senussi said, okay, to his forces, want to hang the lot on the gallows. But some of them, many of them, were freed at that time because the rebels and the Libyan rebels stormed the compound and were able to free most of them.
Meanwhile, though, the International Criminal Court prosecutors are seeking the arrest of Gaddafi.
Yeah, that's right. Gaddafi, his son, Safa, and also that man that I just mentioned just then, Senussi. They're seeking that. They're seeking they're wanting to investigate more into the alleged situation here where, what I just described there, that type of thing, the use of rape, the use of torture in war in this way is obviously against international criminal court laws or international law. So they're building up a case. There's a clip here of the International Criminal Court prosecutor speaking exactly on this point here.
I don't quite have that clip there, but I do have the prisoners being what looks to be mistreated by some of Gaddafi's troops.
Yeah, that's right. What's happening there is, in this clip, Gaddafi's troops have taken hostage a number of youths. These youths are dressed well. They're not in combat kind of clothes or anything like that. But what has happened is a foot on the neck of one of them, a gun in the chest of him. Another individual is obviously being shot and is lying there bleeding on the ground. Others are bound with their heads positioned looking toward a wall. They're being shouted at with questions non-stop. There's ropes around where they're being bound and also neck bound to arms tightly. So the whole scene is a very disturbing scene that we're seeing here, and it's exactly this type of thing that is going on in Libya at the moment. And like you said before, Glenn, there's not a lot of media coverage going on about it at the moment.
No, indeed, and we do now have that the clip of the International Criminal Court prosecutor.
Will decide. They can reject the request, they can accept the request, or they can ask for more evidence. The case is now in their hands. In the meantime, the Office of the Prosecutor will conduct further investigations. First, allegation of rapes. Second, allegation of killings of sub-Saharan Africans considered mercenaries. And third, war crimes committed.
It sounds to me like this isn't going to happen today or tomorrow. It's going to take a long time, Selwyn.
Yeah, a lot of these things, they take time, like we saw with regard to NATO and Serbia, that conflict all those years ago, that despots targeted by international forces, they do tend to be apprehended in the end, but it does take time. As that International Criminal Court prosecutor said just then, the matter's in the ICC judges' hands now. The prosecutors have put a case to the judges, and the judges can accept the request to basically have an arrest warrant out for Gaddafi and those other two, or require more evidence to be obtained. In the meantime, before that decision is made, the prosecutors are continuing to gather information and evidence on these allegations of rape, killings, and it's particularly in the area, like he was saying, which is interesting, sub-Sahara Africans used as mercenaries, and war crimes committed by Gaddafi himself and other leaders. So that's really the picture as we lead into this week, Glenn, that is happening as we speak.
All right, that has been Eye on the World. You can see this as a video once more up at scoop.co.nz, and Selwyn Manning, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Glenn.